listening to Inside Voices on WNHHLP 103.5 FM. Good morning and welcome once again to Inside Voices. I am so thrilled to be here once again with you all. My name is Georgia Goldburn. I am the director of Hope for New Haven and the co-founder of Circle. Inside Voices is a program by our Circle network. And I'm thrilled to have here with me Mrs. Michelle Reyes, who is the director of Hope Child Development Center. Hope Child Development Center is a program for Hope for New Haven, and it's always wonderful to have Ms. Reyes in conversation, and we love to joke around, and I love to hear her comments about pinching cheeks and eating cheeks and all of those things. So welcome, Ms. Reyes. Welcome to Inside Voices. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for inviting me to share a conversation with you about
Yes.
our program.
Absolutely. So we are going to be using this platform to preview and to profile childcare facilities in the city and around the state, actually. And I am a little bit biased because, of course, I want to make sure that my center is front and center and being highlighted and profiled because I'm really very proud of the work that we're doing here. Now, before we get started, Ms. Reyes, usually we have a bio section where we introduce our guests to the audience, but because we're going to be talking about your bio and talking about your journey, we're just going to hold off on that and instead just jump into our history portion. And I always like to give the history and the context of childcare just to explain to people how we've gotten here. So last week when the commissioner was on, we talked about some of the policies around federal funding for childcare. And so we're going to continue a bit with that. And it is really fitting this section of the policy because it's going to talk about Head Start and how Head Start come into being. And, we are kind of connected in New Haven in a very special way to the Head Start program. So last week we talked about the evolution of childcare and how the the federal funds and approach to childcare really wasn't centered around how children's brains work, but rather it was focused around aid to assist parents to stay at home, more specifically, white families. To have white mothers stay at home. We've always known historically that Black women have worked in the field. And so we mentioned the aid to dependent children, which eventually evolved. Um, and we are going to go now into 1940, where for the first time in history, we had something of universal childcare. And that was the Lanham Act authorized funding in 1940 for childcare facilities for children of mothers working in defense and defense-related industry. Under this program, subsidies were provided for all children, regardless of family income, to help communities care for children while mothers were assisting with the war effort. Over the next 25 years, we did mention the aid to the dependent children evolved into a broader welfare program. So following World War II, attitudes around childcare began to change, in part due to the emerging research on the importance of a child early years and building off the success of earlier programs. In 1965, then President Lyndon Johnson established the Head Start program as a part of his War on Poverty initiative, predicated on the belief that early education could have a substantial impact on low-income children's later success. The program began as a national school readiness program for 4-year-olds from low-income families, and while it has evolved and expanded over time, the goals to improve school readiness have remained. Grants are given directly from the federal government to local Head Start grantees who offer a range of comprehensive services to support school readiness and strengthen families. In 1994, the Early Head Start program was created to support low-income pregnant women, infants, and toddlers up to age 3 ensuring that the program could serve a continuum of children ages birth through 5. I always think that those contexts are so very important to understand because during World War II in 1940, when they created the Lanham Act, the focus again was to get women in, to support women who are in the workforce, dealing with the war effort. But it wasn't until 1965 that we saw any other substantial federal investments in childcare with the Head Start program. And that's where we're going to pivot to, Ms. Reyes, because I want you to just kind of give a brief overview and introduction to Hope Child Development Center and the vision, the mission, and the goals.
Okay, thank you again for inviting me. So Hope Child Development Center, we believe every child is a unique gift from God. The mission is to nurture the whole child, spiritually, socially, physically, cognitively, and emotionally. And we do this through Christian values, and we're aligned with the Connecticut ELS, or our state learning standards. Now, parents are key partners, and we do emphasize strong family and community ties, which are rooted in social constructivism theory. And so we like to teach children along with the parents because we believe that parents are the primary educators in children's lives. And this is what we do. And we you know, our history here, we're located in Worcester Square area, right in the old Edward Ziegler's Head Start program. And so we're very local. We're very in the central part of downtown New Haven, I would say, right at 81 Olive Street. And our mission, like I said, our mission is to really nurture that whole child. And our teachers do spiritual things such as praise and worship. We read the Bible to the children. We ask them questions and really teach them about God's love.
So Hope is a Christian childcare center then.
Yes.
All right. So talk about again, you mentioned that you read the Bible to the children. So how else do we incorporate this concept and the values of Christianity into the program? So if a family were not Christian, then this would be a second part of the question. So if a family were not Christian, would they be allowed to come to Hope? But before you answer that question, I would like to talk about how are some of the ways that we incorporate these Christian values into our program.
Some of the ways we incorporate the Christian values in our program is through the teachers intentionally putting various activities in their lesson planning. We make sure that children are shown concretely how to incorporate this big, broad spiritual goals into the curriculum. For example, in March, our spiritual goal is God is a healer, God our healer. And so I've seen many teachers incorporate hospital and clinic activities in their dramatic area and their block area, having an ambulance in the block area, really showing children that God heals, and God heals through using people to help us heal, doctors and nurses and dentists and such. And so this is how they incorporate that into the program.
So you mentioned spiritual goals. So we have a spiritual. So talk to the folks about how we arrange our spiritual goals.
We arrange our spiritual goals to touch each month. Each month we have a spiritual goal, and the teachers usually intently focus on that goal, and they incorporate concrete ideas for the children to really grasp this big concept. And they do that with Bible stories, Bible scriptures, praise and worship songs, and like I had mentioned before, concretely demonstrating to the children, doctors and nurses and dentists will help us. And they do that with all the spiritual goals.
What are some examples of the spiritual goals that you cover with children?
Some examples are we have 2 annual events that happen throughout Hope each year. That's our Easter, I'll call it our resurrection concert, and then we have a Christmas concert, a Christmas play. And the teachers incorporate those goals also by preparing the children for these big events, but also the children learn through these big events because they're learning things in a concrete way. And like I said, one example was maybe creating a doctor's office, and children may have a stethoscope around their neck. They may dress up in a doctor's clothing, and we may ask them, well, what do doctors do? And they can act that out as we read them Bible stories and as we read them books that they get from the library that talk about specifically doctors and nurses and their jobs and what they're supposed to do.
Okay. So what are the age groups that Hope serves?
Hope services children 6 weeks until 13 years of age. And so we group the children in their age group. So we have classrooms stemming from newborn all the way to school age.
Mhm. And how many
And we
classes?
also have a summer program.
Okay, so parents can pretty much start off at what age, or what age with children in the program?
Except children at the age of 6 weeks old
Mhm.
in the newborn room. And then as they grow and learn, we keep them in that room to about a year old, and they transition to the infant room. And then between 13 months, they transition to another room called immersion toddlers. Once they turn 2, they will transition to developing toddlers. And in developing toddlers, after, between 2 years old, 2.5, 2.6, they transition to primary toddlers. They stay there until they're at least 2.8 to 3 years old and transition to pre-K. And they stay in pre-K until they're 4 and transition to academy. And then once they attend kindergarten, they are welcome to come to our before and after school program.
So have children remained in the program, or have children been in the program through all of those different classrooms?
Yes, we have had several children, several families say the children would start at 6 weeks old and they leave at 13 years of age in our after before and after school program.
So how is that for you as a director? And I know we're going to go into the history, but how is that for you seeing those children through all of those stages?
I love it. I love seeing them grow and their little brains picking up things and understanding things. For example, when teachers are changing diapers, they're narrating to the child what's going on. I like to see the little child's eyes light up like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And it looks like they understand everything that we're doing with them, and I love that. I love when children grow as well, and maybe they come into a classroom like academy, not knowing their alphabets or knowing a little bit of alphabets, and then they leave knowing how to read 50 sight words or 100 sight words. That really encourages and excites me to see children grow and learn. So before they go to kindergarten, they already know how to read a lot of words.
Mhm. So you mentioned kindergarten and, going off into kindergarten, and a part of your history, Miss Reyes, is that you were a teacher in a pre-K for many years. So share with folks how long you've been at Hope and how long you've actually been working in early care and education.
Yep, I've been working at Hope for about 20 years. I started a long time ago in 2005. And I've stayed because it's a Christian childcare center, and I do love praising God. And I would praise God with the children. I'm just in there enjoying singing loud, praising God, even though I'm kind of offbeat a little bit with my music, but God said make a joyful noise. So that's exactly what I do with the children, make a joyful noise. And the children pick up on that, and they love to see when they see the teacher actually praising and worshiping God. And then they go and they praise and worship God. And they see that we can have fun while we're worshiping God and we're singing about God and we're learning who He is and that He's a provider and He's a healer in all these different aspects. And children they love being in the circle time. They love doing praise and worship. And parents can see that because some parents stay with us for a little bit to praise and worship with the children, and because they saw how enjoyable it was.
So before you were a director, you were a preschool teacher. So talk to me about the decision that you made to become a teacher at the early care and early care level.
At the early care level, I love teaching children because it just brings me great joy to teach children. I love being with the children when they're from one stage of development to another stage of development. You know, they come in, they don't know their colors or their shapes or anything like that. Most times if they first start in an academy. But then getting them to be comfortable and getting them to want to come into the classroom and intentionally planning activities that are going to wow them and excite me myself. If I don't like the activity, I won't plan it. But if I like the activity, I'm excited, then I portray that to the children and they get excited and they want to delve into it. And so that's what's really brought me to want to teach young children because I absolutely love it. I love the little look in their little faces when I have an activity. For example, we did a volcano and we did paper mache and it took a couple of days, took the whole week actually to do this activity. The kids loved it. And we did a paper mache first and then it had to dry. And then we did it the next day, it had to dry. And then we had to paint it and it had to dry. And then I asked the children, what do you think would happen if we put baking powder in our inside of our volcano? And they were like, we don't know. Well, let's see. Let's see. You put it in there. And they had fun doing that. And then, well, what is this? Oh, that's vinegar. What do you think will happen if we put the vinegar into the volcano? We don't know. Well, let's find out. Somebody put that in there. And then when they see it happen, the look in their eyes like, wow, that's bubbling out. It's really satisfying to me.
So you were a preschool teacher for how long?
Wow. I was a preschool teacher um, since 1993. I came into the business at 1993
Wow.
working with little children.
And
So
where did
yeah,
you
it's been
work
a long
before
time.
Hope?
Before Hope, I worked at the YMCA,
Mhm.
Central Coast YMCA in New Haven. And then before that, I worked for the city of New Haven.
Mm.
They had several childcare centers throughout the city of New Haven, and I worked there.
And you always
And
taught preschool?
yes, I've always taught preschool. Yeah, I've always taught
Have you ever
preschool.
considered working with infants or toddlers?
I have, but my first love is with the preschoolers. But I have, and at Hope, I have worked in each and every classroom,
Mhm.
and I had actually enjoyed each and every classroom. The babies just, they're like therapy. It's like a therapy session working with the little babies because they look at you and if they know you're like, hey, Miss Reyes, and they give me their little smiles, and I just love to see their little faces light up in the morning. So I have worked with the infants and toddlers as well at Hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to observe you, Miss Reyes, and your growth and your development. And, it was a thrill to me, when I was ready to step back as a director to elevate you in that position. And in watching you work with those preschoolers, one of the things I've always been thrilled by is when we used to go visit the kindergarten classrooms right
Yeah.
before the kids went off, and how surprised the teachers were at how prepared those children were to come into kindergarten. So, can you just share just what has been some of your experience with those trips, bringing children to kindergarten, and even why it was important for us to do that with our preschoolers?
It was so much fun to see them go into preschool, go into the kindergarten, because some of them were very nervous.
Mhm.
And we would say, it's okay. You don't have to be nervous. We'd also read lots of books about how kindergarten life would be. And for them to go and visit the kindergarten kind of ease some of their worries and their fears about what it's going to be like being in kindergarten. Because most of them realize that it's just like being at preschool, except you're in a different classroom.
Mhm.
Because in our academy classroom, it was really a kindergarten classroom because we taught them all the things they needed to know in kindergarten. So at the end of kindergarten, I found out through research that children needed to know how to count from 1 to 100, for example. I would do that in the beginning of the year, teach them how to count from 1 to 100 with music. And so every concept that we taught in academy, I would use music to teach them whatever concept I needed them to learn and
Mhm.
make it fun and inviting for them. So they realize that, wow, this is not difficult at all. I thought this was going to be hard. I'm like, no, it's very easy for you. You're a very intelligent person. You can do it. And
Mhm.
so when they went to visit the kindergarten, the teacher would go over counting from 100, from 1 to 100, and our children could count better than the kindergartners who were there, because some of the kindergartens didn't even know how to count from 1 to 100 in the beginning of the year. And
Mhm.
in the beginning of the year, our children already knew how to count from 1 to 100, 10 to 100, 5 to 20, and 2 to 25. So they already knew how to do all these things.
So one of the things, I think that's one of the things that's really special about Hope. And I want to say for the record that we don't, well, let me ask you, because you were the preschool teacher, were you able to achieve that with all of the children in the preschool classroom or all of the groups of children that you had in the preschool classroom? Or was it, it depended on the group of children that were with you in that particular year that you were able to achieve some of these academic goals?
Um, Partly it did depend on the group of children we had, but also because we made it so fun, most of the children really understood those concepts. We had a few children who, because they had special needs or special certain disabilities, they weren't able to grasp everything, but they ended up leaving better for being in the classroom because they were exposed
Mhm.
to lots of literacy, lots of language, lots of music that helped them to understand mathematical concepts like shapes and geometry and geometric shapes. They learned how to determine a number from a shape from an alphabet, and the children who had special needs had a more difficult time remembering that, but eventually they did catch up. It just took them a little longer to get there.
Mhm.
But eventually they did catch up. And a lot of children were way ahead of the mark. They left my class knowing how to count, how to read 50 sight words, and 100 sight words. We had several children. But the children who were special needs also left knowing a lot more than they would have if they had not been in our class, to learn all these different concepts.
And again, it's not because it's our program, Miss Reyes, but I'm always so proud of the work that we've been able to achieve with children. And you mentioned special needs children, and Hope gets a lot of referrals from Birth to Three. We welcome our Birth to Three providers. We love our Birth to Three providers. And so we get a lot of referrals, and we deal with a lot of children that are autistic, that are on the autism spectrum. And you mentioned how they have been made better by virtue of being there. And I think that's one of the very special and unique thing about Hope is how we work with our special needs children families and with our Birth to Three providers. So can you talk a little bit about that so families who have special needs children can understand the work that we do with our children and our families when they come in and why that works for children?
Yes, we do work with the Birth to Three providers. And what we do with our teachers, what our teachers usually do is ask the Birth to Three people, what strategies or techniques can we use to better help this particular child?
Mhm.
And they will come in with different activities, different strategies, different materials. They'll give us materials. They'll email us materials that we'll print out that will work for children. For example, we have one child here who is on the spectrum, who was diagnosed by the Birth to Three, and his the thing that helps him best is if he gets visual cues,
Mhm.
and so the teacher throughout the day. Before we transition or move to the next step, we'll always give this child visual cues, and that helps his behavior
Mhm.
tremendously from being able to move from one activity to the next. And so we do work with the Birth to Three, and it's been helpful because it helps the children to understand how to move throughout the classroom, how to function in the classroom with their peers.
Mhm.
Because being on the spectrum, for some children, is very difficult. And when the teachers know what to do, they have some assistance with the birth to three people who specialize in dealing with special needs children, and we just want to make sure that they're learning, and what they're learning with the birth to three, they're learning with us, and we can convey that to the parents as well, what worked in our classroom and what they recommended, and so we follow what their recommendations.
So you do a lot of tours, Miss Reyes, and you interact with parents who are coming in and learning about the center. What would be some of the things that you would share with the parents when you're doing tours with them about why they should select Hope?
A lot of things that we do is we walk through the program. Um, it's nice and clean. We make sure it's very clean, very healthy. We follow all the health and safety precautions. And I showed them the Connecticut L's on the wall, and we go through how we follow the Connecticut L's as a framework for writing or creating and implementing our lesson plans. And then we go through the different domains that are in the Connecticut L's. And then we go to the spiritual goals, the whole spiritual goals. We walk through the class, we walk through each classroom, and the parents see the interaction of the teachers with the children. And this is what they love. They see that teachers have lesson plans. They see the work that the teachers have done with the children, beautiful pictures that the teachers have taken. And the teachers normally have a Connecticut L that goes along with the activity they did, and they have a little description about what they were doing. And so parents walk through, they see this, they absolutely fall in love with the program once they see the care that we take into providing the best quality education for all children from newborn all the way to school age.
So you mentioned the Connecticut L's. Can you just for the audience, because some folk may be listening who are not familiar with the L's. So what is the L's? Or what does the L stand for? Because it does stand for something.
Yes, it's the Connecticut Early Learning Development Standards.
Mhm.
And these development standards, we've had a group of people who understand young children and how their brain functions. And so they've broken down different domains meaning different areas of learning, language and literacy, social studies, science, cognitive, physical, fine motor, gross motor. Fine motor is being able to use your hands in a particular way. Gross motor is using your entire body. And so these people have gotten together to divide the different domains so that teachers can be assured that they're planning and assessing the children in these domains to make sure they're giving the best quality care and educational progress to the children.
So does this only apply to preschoolers?
No, it applies to children from newborn all the way to preschoolers. The newborns have a section. So if you look in the Connecticut L's and you go to OEC Connecticut L's, you'll see the website. You Google it, and it shows that you can, the newborn teachers as well, from 6 weeks old, they can start prepping the children to learn. And one of those ways that we teach our teachers is to always speak to children, narrate to children, explain what you're doing, what's going to happen first, what's happening next, so that you ease their mind. And then when you're talking to children and using this beautiful language, they begin to understand certain cues. Oh, it's time to get changed, and teachers key into the children's cues. Little Tommy, for example, you must be hungry. Are you hungry? Because you ate 2 hours ago, so now it's time to eat and change your diaper. And so teachers will narrate these certain things to them, and this meets those Connecticut L's, and it talks about how important language is, how important singing to children are, and how important reading particular books to children is in their development of their language. And
Mhm.
so this is what we do, following the Connecticut L's, which always explains that in their different domains.
So how do you work with families in the center? What are some of the things you do with families?
With families, we discussed it with families, for example, when the children are going to transition, if they have any concerns at all, they always come to me and explain their concerns. And then I make sure that I address those concerns that they may have. For example, one parent had a concern that since their child was moving to the new the new classroom, are they going to still eat breakfast, for example? And I'm like, oh, of course they're going to eat breakfast. It's going to be basically the same time. So you have no worries, and you're more than welcome to come in the classroom and hang out with your child if you want to hang out. We're very welcoming. We have an open door policy. Parents are more than welcome to come on in, sit in with their children for a few minutes or an hour or however long they want, and then they can definitely leave. But we welcome parents to come in. We invite parents to come in. Teachers have invited parents to come in during special occasions. We have some teachers who will have they'll have a Valentine's Day party and ask parents to bring in food. And the parents will bring the food in and hang out with their children in the classroom, and they have a little party. So we do have teachers who invite the parents into their classrooms to enjoy a special day with their children. And this is always fun.
So when you hear from parents, what are parents saying to you that makes Hope special to them? I know what they say to me, but I'm what do
They
they
say that hope feels more like a family because when we have children who are in infant room, for example, they're walking past developing toddlers who are 2 in the infant room. They're elite. They're over a year. They're like maybe 13 months or 12 months, and a little kid is walking from going to his classroom. He's passing the 2-year-old classroom, and the teachers are stopping to say, hi, little Johnny, how are you doing? So the parents love that because they see that it feels like a family, that even though this child may not be in their classroom, the teachers in the other classrooms know all the children and
Mhm.
they call them out by name. And they interact with the parents as well as the children. And the parents feel like, wow, they feel like this is a family. This is not just a daycare where you just come and drop your kid off and walk away. This is more like a family where you're bringing your children to your auntie's house or your grandma's house. And your child's going to be cared for and taken care of. So you don't have to worry about your child at all.
One of the things that's always hilarious to me, Miss Reyes, and I'm pretty sure it's hilarious to you too, is parents are just like, how do you know the names of all the children in the center? I don't know if they've commented, if you've ever had a parent comment that to you, but they're always amazed that I know all the names. And it's not just parents, it's just people who come in and they're just
Yes.
like, well, how do you know the names of all of these children in the center? And I can't explain it to them, but it's as you said, everybody knows everybody in the center. All
Yes.
the teachers know
Yes.
each other, and we work collaboratively together, we train collaboratively together. But we visit all of the kids, and the kids stay for a while in the center. So you do get to know all of the kids in the center.
Yes.
So what do
Yes.
parents have anybody ever commented that to you?
Yes, I had a few parents ask me, well, how do you know all the children's names? Because, I sit at the front desk since I was promoted to director, and I get to see the parents and I greet everyone and I'll call the children by name. Good morning, little person. I'll say their name. And the parents like, wow, Miss Reyes, how do you know? Yes, I know all my babies because when they come here, I feel like they're my children. And
Mhm.
so, of course, I'm going to know everyone's name. I know what quirks they have, what they like, what they don't like. And yes, and I may give them a nickname, but I always eat the cheeks up, and I'll say, okay, I'm gonna eat little Johnny's cheeks up, and that's just to make the children feel more comfortable with being in the center and being away from mom or dad. So then when they come in, they're not feeling sad. I want them to feel like they're part of the whole community at Hope, feel like they're part of Hope's family because we don't consider it just co-workers. We consider when parents come into Hope, they now are a part of Hope family. And so automatically you become family.
And we literally are family because all of the staff people have their children. Almost all of the staff people have their children there. Milo, the nephew, is there, and you have your Sashita and your
Yes.
Isaiah that went through the program as well. So it's literally and figuratively a family there because all of our families are there. So I mentioned that teachers, have their families there, and we talk about the things that make it special for parents. Um, and one of the things that I'm noticing with Hope, and a part of this is related to the Circle program, the evolution of the teachers that are at Hope. So can you talk to the audience about what are who are the teachers that are at Hope? We have their names posted, but we don't have their pictures posted. And it's one of the special things that I love about going into Hope. But I'll have you share what's so unique and special about our teachers at Hope.
Well, our teachers are dedicated and they have a passion for teaching the little ones. We have Miss Karen and Miss Juliana and Miss Ruth who are in the newborn room. And they absolutely love being with the little children. Miss Karen lights up, the kids light up when they see her in the morning. You know, they'll start leaving mom, you know, jumping out of mom's arms to go run into Miss Karen's arms. And so the parents like, wow, you're leaving me. You normally don't do this with other people, but they do here with our teachers because they have such a passion. Miss Andrine is and Miss Beverly and Miss Bonita are in the infant room, and you can see that they love working with the children. Miss Andrine makes me laugh because she'll point her little finger and say, you know, are we supposed to do that? And the children will laugh and they know, no, we're not supposed to do that. And they'll go do what they're supposed to do, which is so funny. And she'll tell them, you know, like for example, she'll have them in circle time and she'll say, okay, boys and girls, you know, I gave you my 5 minute warning. Now it's time to come to circle time. And they all look at her and they all start walking towards circle time. And these babies, they're like a year old. They're basically 1 year old and they're listening to her beautiful words. They're coming all the circle and she's giving them, you know, little instruments and stuff like that to play with them. And Miss Bonita sits down, Miss Beverly sits down, they all sit and have fun together. And then you walk into immersion toddlers where we have Miss Ruth and Miss Gregoria. And they welcome the children in, and the children look and they smile, you know, and then they say, okay, mom, can you help them wash their hands? And they're like, okay, okay. And they
So,
love playing in the water.
so talk about though the racial makeup of this and the cultural makeup of the teachers in the center. You did mention some of those teachers by name, but talk about in general, what's the cultural makeup and the racial makeup of the teachers in the center?
We have a very diverse group of teachers. We have some Caucasian teachers. We have teachers who are have Chinese descendants. We have teachers who are from Africa. We have some teachers who are from South America. We have, of course, some Caribbean teachers from Jamaica. So we have a big diverse group of teachers which make it very culturally aware, and so this is one of the reasons too why we want to make sure that we are culturally and linguistically aware of children's backgrounds and teachers' backgrounds, and we teach children about different cultures, and we teach them through song and dance and books, and we also have had parents come in and explain what their culture is in their native dress. We had one parent, Miss Dorothy's daughter-in-law came in one day with the Indian dress, and she explained what the diverse complex of India and what people do and what they eat and how they dress there and the languages they speak. And she was one of our people who would come in and explain that part of the culture, and children would maybe eat some Indian food, maybe a little Indian food, not the spicy stuff, but something that was like naan, you know, something that's not too spicy. And children love that. And some parents would come and hang out with us too and get a gift of that. But we're very culturally diverse here at Hope.
So do you have a sense of how many cultures are represented across the teachers and how many languages are spoken at Hope?
Wow. Well, there are several. Let's see. So we have, let me think about this. We have, yeah, we have Miss Gregoria who speaks Spanish and she's from South America. We have Miss Juliana speaks Spanish. She's from South America. Miss Ruth is from Africa. She speaks three different languages. I
Oh
think
my
it's
goodness, she
Portuguese.
speaks seven. I found
Is seven?
seven languages.
Wow, see, I didn't realize she spoke seven. Yeah, she speaks a lot of different languages. I know it's Portuguese, and I don't know the other Spanish, Portuguese, and I'm not sure about the other ones. But wow, a lot. And then we have Miss Addie, who she's from Ghana, and she speaks a native language of Ghana.
Mhm.
but I don't remember the name of it. She told me, but I cannot remember how to enunciate that. And then we have Miss Fei Fei, who speaks Mandarin.
Mhm.
She speaks Mandarin. And in China, there's so many different languages, but some of the popular languages, one of them is Mandarin, and she speaks that. Miss Sammy is one of our special needs teachers, and she speaks Spanish as well. She's fluent in Spanish. And then Miss Elham speaks Arabic, English, and I think one other language. So I
Mhm.
think she's trilingual.
So we have,
Um,
so that's also what I think is like one of the special thing about being at Hope. And again, it's not just because it's our program, but one of the things the part of my journey, Ms. Reyes, is making sure that we have a program that is culturally responsive, and multiracial, multi-generational. And I would love to have more men in our program. And we've had a few
yes.
men over the years, and that's been, it was really lovely to have those men in our programs, and we have, but to be able to achieve the goal of being multiracial, multicultural, multilinguistic in the program so that we can serve a lot of the families. I know Ms.
Hmm.
It was hugely helpful to a family who just recently moved from China and found our program, and we couldn't, we had somebody who could go to her and speak with her and connect with her in her language, so that she can
Yes.
understand about the program. So it's been wonderful, to have that. And talking about another goal, Miss Reyes, we just achieved this goal recently, with the Early Start program. And I don't know if you know as much about how the Early Start has supported parents, and I can give a little bit of data on the program. But when parents come in, and they are looking for childcare, cost is one of the big factors. So how do you talk to parents that walk through the door about how Hope supports families around cost of care?
Okay, so we support families by we do accept care for kids. And if families haven't applied to that, we always have applications for them in English or Spanish so that they can apply. And we also offer the early care grant, which is a supplemental grant that helps parents with paying for their tuition.
Mhm.
And some parents, because they may be on Care for Kids and qualify for the early care grant, they end up paying up to $0 to $50 a week.
Mhm.
And so the cost really is a lot more than that, but the grant and the Care for Kids helps them to be able to provide tuition payment for their tuition and bring it down to something that they can actually afford.
Yeah. So, and again, Miss Reyes, I deal more with the finance side of it, so I will share with you. We're still going through the numbers, because we're enrolling new children, but I can definitely say 50% of our families, and I wish I could share. I'll share that with the commissioner, the next time I see her, or when we talk more meaningfully about Early Start Connecticut, which is the new childcare or new iteration of childcare support in the state. But 50% of our families, Ms. Reyes, serve pay either between $0 to $50 a week. So that's coupled the Early Start and coupled with Care for Kids, it does really eliminate a lot of costs for parents. And we also capped our tuition at $300 for all parents. So regardless of what income parents make. You have some parents who um, a lot of our parents are in that middle income
Hmm.
tier, and we do have about 60% of our families receive the Care for Kids program. But even for families who are just slightly above those middle to lower income tier, they get an assistant through our programs. And so we've effectively capped our tuition at $300 in the center. So that's something I want to share with the community so that not only is Hope a clean, nurturing, loving family environment, but it is also, we've worked really very hard to eliminate or to significantly reduce the cost of care for families. So Ms. Reyes, we've got about 10 more minutes left. in our program. So I want to take this opportunity to kind of go back to you and to talk and to have you explain to us what has been one of the more um, rewarding part of your role as a director.
Um, One of the more rewarding part of being a director is being able to speak with families and begin to understand their needs. Most families, they do need affordable childcare, but they also want a safe, quality childcare where they can leave their children and not be worried that their children are not cared for properly. But here, because we treat all the children like family, the children oftentimes don't even want to leave when the parents come pick them up. So the moms are like, oh my goodness, little Johnny doesn't want to come home. Oh my goodness. And I'm like, well, we're sorry, mom, but this is what happens when you come to Hope. They do not want to leave. And it's because of the great care they feel from the teachers who care for them. And then I'll come and help them if they need a little bit more assistance and, help them get their emotional track back on track. But I do enjoy working with the families of Hope, working with the children, the teachers. I love working with the Circle apprentices as well. Mentoring them is been very rewarding because they do come and ask a lot of questions. And I'm like, "Huh, I hadn't thought about that in a while, but yeah, this is the answer to that particular question." And so it's really a lot of, it's very rewarding to help people who want to be in childcare but do not have the knowledge they need yet. And working here at Hope, we give them the knowledge they need because we offer the Circle. I know you know the Circle Apprentice offer classes, educational college level classes for them. They help them get their CDA credential, help them with their associates and their bachelor's degree. So I think that's a big achievement because when I was younger, they didn't have this program. I kind of wish I had to go through this program because, you get all this stuff paid for, and you don't have to worry about the finances, but then you also get the work experience that you need. And you see people who actually love working with children, work with them and show the apprentice how to do this. And if they have any questions, they always come to me and ask me different questions. But we have several mentors here as well. And so anytime they need any help with homework or have questions about something, some issue they had in the classroom or something they didn't know how to solve, I'll show them, I'll model for them the behavior that they can express to their children in order to get the children back in line. And it's as simple as talking to them using a little child psychology, and they're like, "Wow, that looked easy." It is easy. You can do this. You can do exactly what I did.
Mhm.
And so that to me is very rewarding to see their eyes get lit up to like, "Wow, I didn't know I could do that." Yeah, you can do that. You can
What's
absolutely help children.
what's
hmm
most challenging being a director? And before you,
Um,
one of the things I did share with you when I went to the NIA conference, there were the two conferences that I could not get in or workshop I couldn't get into was the one about the stress and the challenge being a director in a childcare center. So this is really hard work and it's hard work for lots of different reasons. So what has been the most challenging for you?
the most challenging has been time.
Mm.
There doesn't seem to be enough time to do everything that needs to be done. And so that has been one of the most challenging parts of my job. And then being able to manage my time more appropriately,
Mhm.
because I'll have a plan to do something on a particular day, and something happens that just throws a whole wrench in my plans. I'm like, okay, now I can't do that when I have planned to do. Now I have to go and handle this particular problem. And
Mhm.
so that has been a big challenge, being able to solve the problem, but still get the work done that needs to be done. And I saw you for years do all this, and I was like, I don't know how she does it.
I didn't
You make
sleep,
it
Miss
look very
Reyes.
easy.
I didn't sleep.
You make it
So,
look so easy,
well,
but
Miss
it's
Reyes,
not
I
as
hid
easy
my
as
panic.
it
I hid
looks.
my panic, Miss Reyes. You didn't see the breakdown in my office. You didn't see the breakdown in my office. Um, as we're getting ready to wrap up, I know you mentioned the fact that we serve children 6 weeks all the way through age 13. We actually we operate under the youth camp license. So I think we can even go up to age 16 with a youth camp, especially for special needs children, we can go up even higher. So if a family is interested in finding out about Hope and want to enroll in Hope, you mentioned that we were located in the Worcester area. So can you give families some more information and explain how they can, if they're interested, how they can connect with you and connect with the center?
Okay, sure. Families who want to enroll in the HOPES CDC, they can call our center and schedule a tour. And then once we set up an appointment for a tour, they can come in. The number to call is 203-865-4673. They can call that number and set up a tour. And once they set up and we are open from 7:30 to 5:30, Monday through Friday. And so once they schedule a tour, they can come in and tour. When they discover that they love the program, because they will, once you come here, you're going to love it. Then we'll set up an orientation. And then from there, your child can have the opportunity to be enrolled in Hope and be a part of the Hope family.
So is a phone call the only way that they can connect with us?
Yes, they can also connect with us via internet at www.hope, HOPE, number 4, NHV.org. So they can connect on the internet, and they can connect with our website. And when you go to the website, you can just plug in, there's a space where it says to contact, and they can click in there and make an inquiry that they'd like to set up a tour. And then we will definitely call them back and then set a tour for them.
Do we have any spaces available right now?
We do have some spaces. We have a space in the infant room because we are going through transitions right now. So some of our children who are in one class are moving to another class, and that's made some spaces available for parents. So we do have one space left. Sometimes the spaces go really quickly. We can have a space today and the space will be taken by Tuesday. So it's important for people to call as soon as possible, or reach us through the internet as soon as possible, and we'll definitely get in contact with them and set up a tour. And then we do have some spaces in the pre-K room, which are 3 years old. Children are 3 in that room. We do have some spaces there. And we may have some spaces in the academy room, or we can make some spaces for the academy room for people. We can stretch a little bit and make a few spaces if there's a big need.
Okay. So if you were to just kind of give a summary or synopsis of what you want as a takeaway for family to know about Hope, how would you characterize or summarize for parents about what's important, special about our program?
What's really important and special about Hope is that we are a Christian organization, and we truly love God, and we treat the children and families as though they are family. And I think that's one of the special things about Hope, and also that we are multicultural with the children and with the teachers. Multilingual. So if you speak Arabic and you don't feel comfortable, you can feel comfortable here because we have several teachers here who are Arabic, who speak Arabic language, and they can feel welcome. If people are concerned because they only speak Spanish, I am bilingual, you are bilingual, and so we have several teachers here who are bilingual and multilingual. So there's no need not to come. You can always come, and when you see that you love us, you'll want to join your child here. Because once you come, you just want to stay.
And one of the things you mentioned, Ms. Reyes, and it's actually been borne out, and I think I would like to emphasize that a lot, is when you have a lot of parents who make different types of decisions and choices about why to come to a child care center, but their main concern in all research and data across the state, across the city, across the country is health and safety. So what would be the key takeaway for Hope around health and safety?
Where our health and safety, as soon as children walk into the center, in the classroom, they have to wash their hands. That's the first thing they have to do. And that's just to get rid of any germs, any pollen that may be on their little hands as they walk in. And we do keep the center clean. We make sure we teach the children how to cover their mouth when they cough, how to cover their noses when they sneeze, and the teachers do the same. And so when you come in, you'll see it's very clean, and very safe for the children because we do want to make sure that we don't get involved in any germy situation. COVID really piped it up even more because even after each child uses the toilet, we clean the toilet after each child has used the toilet. And so we just want to get rid of germs as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And so it's a very safe, nurturing place for families to feel comfortable to bring their child to.
And one of the things I know I hear a lot from parents is when I used to do the tour, I don't know if you still do that, is it doesn't matter what time of the day parents come in to do a tour. They always say there's no smell in the center. The center looks clean and it smells clean. And so how do you guys, how do we achieve that each day?
We achieve that by emptying the trash can twice a day. So, maybe in the morning there, you may have a few children or several children who will have a bowel movement. And so we wrap the diapers up a certain way and we put them so that it's not all exposed. We kind of wrap them up and then we throw it in the trash. And then around noon to 12:30, most teachers in all the classrooms take their trash out of the center and they clean the trash can out so that the smell will not linger in the classroom. And so when you come in the classroom, it smells nice and fresh and clean. And so we get rid of the smell in that way. And then in the evening, we also the teachers take the trash out again, clean the trash can out with soap and water and bleach. We do use bleach to kill the germs.
All right. So, and again, we have a wonderful cleaning company, and I'm going to shamelessly plug them, SMG, as our cleaning company, and wonderful teachers who make sure that they're cleaning the space. So again, I am so proud of the work that we do at Hope. I am so thrilled, Ms. Reyes, to really have you as a colleague and to see you work and to see all the things that you do. I'm going to invite all of our parents or folks who are interested is to visit Hope for New Haven, look for Hope Child Development Center, and you can call us at 203-865-4673 to visit with our center. And it sounds like we have some spaces available in infants and maybe the preschool room as well. And sadly, the summer camp, it sounds like that's oversubscribed, Ms. Reyes.
Yes, unfortunately, I do. We still have a lot of calls for summer camp, but unfortunately, we have reached our cap and we don't have anywhere else to put extra children.
Well,
So unfortunately,
we'll put it out there in the universe that we can get a larger space in New Haven to do some
yes,
more work. Well, thank you, Ms.
yes,
Reyes, so very much for coming and gracing us with your presence. I know that you got a lot of stuff to do and to go back to, as you say, the day is going to take you wherever you need to go. So thank you. And thank you for sharing about Hope Child Development Center today.
yeah. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Okay.